live stream. Okay, we are live right now.
Okay, hello everyone and welcome to our November meetup of the year. We still have one meetup to go, which is next month, and then maybe we'll do a recap for the reInvent. Okay, hello everyone and welcome to our today we have meetup of the year. Two speakers from the other side of the world. We have Nick and meetup to go, which is next month, and then maybe we'll do a recap for that. So Nick is the principal. Hello everyone and welcome to our today we have meetup of the year. Two speakers from the other side of the world. We have Nick meetup to go, which is next month, and then maybe we'll do a recap for that. So Nick is the principal. Hello everyone and welcome to our today we have meetup of the year. Speakers from the other side of the world. We have Nick. We'll be starting with Nick for next month, and then maybe we'll do a recap for that. So Nick is the principal. Hello everyone and welcome to our today we have meetup of the year. Speakers from the other side of the world. We have Nick. We'll be starting with Nick for next month, and then maybe we'll do a recap for that. So Nick is the principal. Hello everyone and welcome to our today we have meetup of the year. Speakers from the other side of the world. We have a next meetup session which we finished earlier in May. So Nick is the principal. Hello everyone and welcome to our today we have meetup of the year. We have a next meetup session which we finished earlier in May. So Nick is the principal. Hello everyone and welcome to our today we have meetup of the year. We have a next meetup session which we finished earlier in May. So Nick is the principal. Hello everyone and welcome to our
Fantastic. Can everyone hear me okay?
We have a next meetup session which we finished earlier in May.
Fantastic. Can everyone hear me okay?
We have a next meetup session with
The three key things. Fantastic. Can everyone hear me okay? Targets
we have a next meetup session
The three key things. Fantastic. Can everyone hear me okay? Targets
we have a next meetup session
The three key things. Fantastic. Can everyone hear me okay? Targets
we have a next meetup session
The three key things. Fantastic. Can everyone hear me okay?
we have a next meetup session
The three key things. Fantastic. Can everyone hear me okay?
we have a next meetup session
The three key things. Fantastic. Can everyone hear me okay?
we have a next meetup session
The three key things. Fantastic. Can everyone hear me
we have a next meetup session
The three key things. Fantastic. Can everyone hear me
we have a next meetup session
The three key things. Fantastic. Can everyone hear
we have a next meetup session
You like Go with it. Agreeing with that, you know, and it's going in the right direction. So, I don't know how we're doing for time. Time to go with it for a few questions.
We can take a couple of questions, Nick. Yeah. If anyone has a question, guys, just ask directly. You can unmute yourself or leave it in the comments.
Go with it for a few questions.
We can take a couple of questions. No one has a question, I will ask while you are guys thinking about questions. If anyone has a question, guys, just ask directly. Right. Can you tell us more, Nick, about empowering engineers? Because I saw a lot in big companies, right? No one has a question, I will ask. You want to have a deployment, you want to go with this deployment, then you need to wait after you raise a ticket, it goes through security, taking a few days to finish, then they will come back with you a report, fix it, do the same process, right? Can you tell us more about how we can empower engineers to like maybe shorten this thing or like skip it totally from every deployment, pass it to the security team?
So if it's only been a few days in your experience, then you've been lucky with the companies you've been working with. Often that one takes weeks. But the core of it is about making it easy for engineers to get it right in the first place. So we see a lot of companies working to do things like build libraries of reference, CloudFormation or Terraform templates that engineers can take and use that are already mostly secure. They've got the right kinds of things turned on, and therefore an engineer can just sort of get started and mostly be secure out the gate. So when security has to look at it, they're looking for a lot less because you've used the approved pieces anyway. So that's definitely one approach. Automated security scanning on Terraform, CloudFormation, things like that. It's something a lot of people have adopted because it means that rather than manual security review, you can do a lot of it automatically. And then also, in terms of empowering engineers, we've seen a lot of organizations take this security champions model, as it's often called, where you take an engineer who's interested in security in each team and train them to do more security or to be better at security so that they act as like a local expert in security within their engineering team. And then the central security teams that you've got to raise tickets for can push a lot of the security responsibilities down onto these champions to be there as the person to keep an eye on what's happening, to make sure that what's being designed and built is sensible, so that the end security review processes are a lot shorter. And lastly, in an ideal world, you shouldn't have had to raise a ticket to do a deployment, right? We want to be doing continuous integration and deployment and pushing changes out as fast as they're ready. And so a lot of organizations have moved away from having tickets you raise to get deployments done to having security do periodic reviews and checks to make sure that everything that's happened in the last 3 months has been okay. And if it's not, then we'll catch it at that stage. But for the most part, because we've got the security automation, we've got these libraries of how to do things right, we've trained some of the engineers to be better at security anyway, we can trust that most of it's going to be okay. And anything that's not at that stage we'll catch as part of these periodic reviews.
Great. That's a really good answer, cleared up for me, giving me some cool ideas. Awesome. Any other question, guys? Last question for Nick. Let me check the chat if anyone asks. Okay. Great. Thank you so much, Nick. It was a pleasure to have you. Hopefully we'll get you on site one day if you visit Malaysia.
I'd love to. That sounds great.
Awesome. Okay, I will just share my screen now.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, before we go to our next speaker, so thanks to Nick talking about how we can protect ourselves. And I really recommend always try to use Secret Manager. It's really powerful tool. And I think few months back, Yasser gave a talk about secret managers and how this day you shouldn't save your secrets in, if you are using Kubernetes, for example, then you save it in secret. Basically, it's not really a secret. So try always to use that. It's really cool tip. So before we go to our next talk, if you guys hiring for your company, this is the best place to hunt some good talents. Scan this QR code, fill up what you guys are looking for, and we will share it in our next meetup in December. Now, Carsam is hiring a lot of SRE engineers. I will share with you guys now on the chat the engineering manager's email. If you guys interested, you can reach out to him directly. If you want to give a speak in our next meetup, do just scan this QR code. Any talk is welcome, guys. If you need any help in preparing your presentation, do as well reach out to us. We can help you with that. I will leave this one for a few seconds, and I hope we can see new faces as well, like today. Great. So our next speaker is Sanchit. He's a lead solutions architect. He will be talking about transforming data using Glue DataBrew. And again, I think this is the first time someone talking about a Glue in our meetup, so that would be an interesting topic as well. So I will stop sharing my screen, Sanchit, and you can take it over from here.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Hope all guys are doing good and everyone is healthy and safe. Thank you so much, Malaysia User Group, for giving me this opportunity to be present as one of the speakers on this topic. So yeah, today's session will be around AWS Glue DataBrew. Let me quickly run through it, the agenda. The agenda for the session is going to be introduction, overview about DataBrew, a quick demo. So we'll try to make it more or less theoretical and more of hands-on. And at the last, the fun part, questions and answers, FAQs, right? So with that, let me give a quick introduction about myself. My name is Sanchit. I work as a lead architect Quantify, based out of India, and also an AWS APN ambassador, AWS community builder. You can reach out to me on different means, different mediums like LinkedIn, Twitter, or even GitHub. If you feel I can be in any of your help, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to help you out. With that, I'll start my today's session. So before we learn what is DataBrew, right? I just want to make it why we need a DataBrew. It's always good to start with why. Let's understand why we need a DataBrew, right? Anywhere, right? This entire COVID period, one thing I've seen, there are workloads. I mean, for sure, cloud adoption has increased tremendously higher. That's I would say, truth. Whichever cloud you talk about, the adoption has been much more higher across the industries, not a particular one. You talk about healthcare, insurance, or any other one. Sorry. With that, one or other parameters I want to highlight is the adoption with the cloud and the kind of the workload on the cloud is also been increased. So if you talk about things like migration, modernization, digital transformation, or building a cloud native warehouse, those are the different common kinds of workload you will see for sure, along with what Nick also mentioned about the cybersecurity and securing the workload. For sure, that is along with that. But basically, you'll see these are the different requests that comes in the market, right? Overall, underneath, my thought is you always talk about the data. When you're talking about machine learning workload, whether you talk about any software application where you're connecting any transactional data, where you talk about any data lake, any warehouse platform, underneath what you try to do is capture the data. And that's all the entire solution, entire workload revolves around. And then we take that data and try to make more analytics, trends, chart, machine learning outcome, inference, all sorts of things what we try to do, right? The core important part with collection of the data is also to analyze and understand that data, right? It is very important that you analyze the data, understand what are the patterns around the data if you want to get a good outcome of it, right? And the time and the effort that it takes to analyze that data and extract different design patterns is almost 50% of your entire project. If you're talking about my project, let's say X weeks, 50% of that X week, you're going to only do rounds of iteration where you build something, some data analysis or some EDAs around it, exploratory data analysis, think around, go back, think around, go back. Even in case of machine learning also, this is like an iterative cycle that goes on. And there are very few people who really wants to put that effort to go through around it. Otherwise, there's a rush to do something, take it around. And at the last, when you're creating your outcome, either a machine learning model or a BI charts, you realized, hey, I didn't analyze my data properly, or a particular column was wrongly mapped. You get at the last stage, again, you get back to square one. and this cycle keeps on going around it. That's why it is very time consuming, effort driven, as well as you need labor intense, right? With that drawbacks here, AWS came up with the service in last year, say in November 2020, with DataBrew during the just before the reinvent, with the vision, with the intent that you purely focus around understanding, exploring your data without worrying about the effort that it goes, right? Effort in terms of designing the program to process it, right? When you're talking about analyzing your data, either you're going to do it in Excel, if it is a small data set, either you're going to write pandas or any other programming language to do it, or R and everything. Some or other way, you're going to take the help of a tool or any kind of programming language to analyze your data, whether what kind of workload you do. With that, Glue DataBrew is a no-code tool. You don't even have to write a code, and with that, it reduces your effort and everything significantly. That's why it's very important for us to understand the adoption of DataBrew and how it can help us to reduce the entire time it takes. Moving towards the next, what exactly is the Glue DataBrew, right? I already gave us some trailer about in the previous slide. Let me exactly open up my cards. Glue DataBrew is more like a visual data presentation, a preparation tool that makes it easy for any data analyst, any data science, any person who's working around the data to prepare the data with few clicks, drag and drop based visual interface without writing any line of code, right? We'll see in the demo also, I'll talk about how exactly why you're not writing the code and all of the stuff, right? That's all about the Glue is, right? It's a very neat and clean UI with a couple of inbuilt transformation without single line of code. It gives you a very visualized interface to play around with your data. Let's understand the capability of the DataBrew, right? Whenever you talk about data, many guys who are working in and out on the data, you will understand. These are the 4 different capabilities you always look forward, irrespective how are you analyzing your data. Profiling, cleansing, normalizing, data lineage, and automation, right? Let's start from the profile. It's very important that you analyze your data and understand the quality of data, right? Profiling is all about understanding the quality of data. Like, what is the proportion of missing values? How's the quality of the data is? Is it good? Is it bad? How exactly you're going to substitute your missing values? Those exactly falls into the profiling, right? To analyze and get some more facts. Then comes the cleansing and normalizing, right? You clean and normalize. Whatever the analysis you got from profiling, the outliers, the missing values, the gap in the quality of data, you try to clean and try to make it more in a good data, right? From a bad perspective. So you make it clean and normalize. Third, if I talk about this entire mapping the lineage. Lineage is very important, right? When you're going through entire process flow, it is very important to step by step analyze and understand how exactly your data was processed through the pipeline. Okay, it's a very simple functionality, but it is very helpful when you're working on any sensitive data, any proprietary data like PHI or PII. It is very important to understand how exactly your data was processed, who has the capability, and other kinds of tracking around it. At the last, automate. When we talk about cloud, 2 things always strike our head: serverless and automation. We always are a fan of serverless technologies and a fan of automating it. Similarly, in DataBrew also, there is a capability you can automate it. It provides a visual UI. That doesn't mean you have to manually do it. There are ways where you can automate this workflow and the entire cleansing job, so you can simplify it. We'll understand how exactly you can do it and what are the practical ways which you can take it forward to a production workload also. Moving towards on the right side, the need of it, I think we already have looked into the previous slide, but talking very specific pointers is time-wise. I mean, 3 factors: time consuming, expensive, and manual. Time consuming, as we talk about, there are multiple rounds of iteration unless and until you get the last stage. And again, you cannot define what's the last stage unless you get the elegant output, what you're looking forward, or the machine learning model accuracy, what you're looking for, right? So it's very time consuming. And again, time consuming in the sense of not the iterations. Even when you make any change, right? Let's say today you make some change in your data is almost there, your script finalized. Tomorrow, when there is an incremental load that comes up again you're doing your model training or new incremental load of data you want to consume, right? For sure, there will be some small change, either an addition or a schema change or any new design or new scenario where your data is not as per what you were looking for previously. That again leads to change of your code, right? You again have to go back, change your code and get back, right? So the effort that takes to make the change your code, test it out, and apply any data is also more. So time consuming from both the perspective. Expensive. Expensive in terms of the time of resources, expensive in terms of the cost of resources. I'm talking about the human resources. Expensive in terms of, let's say, if you're going with some no-code tool, then the licensing of that tool. So it's from time, human, as well as license cost perspective, it's very expensive. It's manual. As I mentioned, you cannot define what's a desired outcome stage unless you get the actual outcome, right? So it's very manual driven. For sure, you're going to make mistakes. Like common of mistakes are, okay, hey, I missed to process this column. I didn't map the right data type to this column. So those are very manual, human-prone errors, which we all know, right? When you're working a larger data set, like let's say 100 columns, million of rows, such small errors are bound to occur. The time-consuming, expensive, and manual are the three, I would say, necessity that leads to more adoption of DataBrew. Moving towards next, how exactly the DataBrew ecosystem or overview look like, right? On the left-hand side, you have all different data sources. Now, data sources is not just limited to, for sure, AWS native. I mean, AWS native, for sure, it integrates pretty well. It also integrates with other data sources, maybe residing on on-prem or maybe residing anywhere else on your servers and all, which can be interacted via JDBC bridge. That's one. Outside, when it comes to AWS, it supports your any data lake, which is primarily, I would say, S3 bucket, your data catalog, your Redshift cluster, or even your local files, right? I mean, generally, in case of production, you won't deal with local files, but let's say it also supports local files if you have some small one-time kind of stuff which you want to analyze it, then it also supports local file. That comes on the left-hand side when it comes of the data sources. On the center, you have the entire DataBrew, right? With the data of DataBrew, for sure, you can select the data, you can build recipe, we'll understand what exactly the recipe is now. Join, that simply means process the data, and schedule the data. Schedule falls under automation, which we'll cover in very detail. And at the bottom is the very core important part. The important part in terms of the transformations, right? The USP of DataBrew is it supports 250 inbuilt transformation out of the box without writing a single line of code. So things like replacing missing values, lowercase, uppercase, organizing the date column, split, merge, join, normalizing the data. Those are the different kinds of scenarios what we do on a regular basis. And we know in order to do those regular expressions, also you need to write the code or write some database query to do it and other mechanism which you do. Here it is provided inbuilt. You just plug your data source, analyze, run a profile job, get the quality of the data, and then run the operation what you want to do based on the profile data and get an outcome, desired outcome. That desired outcome, you can either put it into QuickSight, any of your SageMaker notebook, or any of your ETL pipeline, right? What are the intermediate outputs what you can get, which you can use, right? Cleanse data. That's what we always expect. Cleanse data, store what we're looking for. Reuse recipe. So as I was talking about when we were giving an overview, reuse recipe. Recipe is more in short like an instruction which helps to give that, okay, here is my data set. These are the operation I want to perform. So that list of operation which you want to perform on a specified column is a recipe. We'll again deep dive how recipe look like, what are the different formats. We'll also have upcoming slide as well as I'll show you one example file, how a recipe look like. Data profiling, data quality, and data lineage. Those are the other outputs what you get from DataBrew while you're taking your source, processing it, and getting an outcome of it. So that's overview of how exactly DataBrew look like in a nutshell. Advantage, I think it is very easy to connect from our first why slide and the introduction, how exactly would be the advantage of DataBrew. Going from a clockwise direction, serverless. Along with no code, the best part of DataBrew is it's serverless data prep. Serverless in the sense, you don't have to worry about the scale of it. You don't have to worry about what kind of compute it needs to spin up. It's completely managed by Amazon. You just have to provide the right data source with right credential and right transformation, what you need. So only focus is to process your data and understand and get what you're looking for, rather worrying about the infrastructure and other things around it. Connection to the data source. It supports a whole variety of different data sources. 250 inbuilt transformation, which we just understand about it. And we'll also have a look when we're looking at the AWS console. The best part, which I like about DataBrew a lot, is it not only can work as a standalone data analysis service in AWS, but it can also integrate with your existing ETL pipeline. We all know there are certain tools available like step function is there, or AWS manage Airflow, or the open source Airflow, or any existing Jenkins or any pipeline what you're using, let's say for any of your ETL existing. You can use DataBrew in that existing pipeline. Things like Boto3 SDK, Python code, you can run the job, right? You can define all the job in DataBrew. With help of Python SDK, you can invoke the job, you can get the outcome of it. Those kinds of all stuff also you can do. So with the existing pipeline also, DataBrew can be compatible. That's the best part of it, that you don't need to revamp, but you just have one job, have one Python interface code, which can invoke the job and get the response back. That's also impossible. Last is the data visualization tool. Data lineage. So in case of data lineage, it's very important when you're running the entire DataBrew, let's say in an automated fashion, mid of the night, it is very important that you have the entire graph. That graph help you to understand how your data was processed, if got failed, at which stage it got failed, which is very important when you're doing a complex stuff. So that are the advantages of DataBrew, which makes it more important and more helpful for folks who are dealing in and out with the data. Before we jump onto the demo and hands-on, here are the couple of core concepts which we should be looking forward, because these are the same terminologies I will be using frequently, or they will be on the UI console. So it's very important. Let's quickly run through it right from the top left. So first is the data set. Very simple to understand. Source data is nothing but a data set. Any data which you want DataBrew to process on it is a data set, which can be any AWS data services or any databases sitting on your on-prem, can be interacted with JDBC or local file. That is a data set. Second is the project. Now, project is very important. Now, in a simple definition, a project can be a workspace, a folder. In that folder, you define or analyze everything what you want to do, your personalized workspace kind of stuff, where you plug your data set, you run entire thing, and you do all of the stuff what you need to do. Recipe. As I mentioned in the previous slide also, recipe is like an instruction which you give to DataBrew that, okay, this is how you have to process the given data set. The core part or the very important part about recipe is not the instruction. This recipe can also, this is the core thing, right? This is more like a brain which you're giving to DataBrew that, okay, given this data set, you perform this action on the data set and have the outcome. This recipe you can import, you can export, you can store in your code repository. There is nothing, any sensitive credentials are there. It's pure sets of instruction, which is written either in JSON or an YAML file. So let's say if you want to share, collaborate across different jobs within the same account, or let's say across two different accounts, you can easily do it with recipe. You can import, export, or you can also upload to your code repository so you can use in future and all of the stuff. Those all seems possible with help of recipe. Moving towards the right, job. What exactly is a job? Very simple to understand. The logical unit which you run via DataBrew is a job. There are two kinds of jobs which are provided in DataBrew. One is the profiling job. The second is the entire recipe job. What's the difference between two jobs is in the profiling job, you understand the quality of data. You do analysis, which help you to understand how your data look like, what is the quality of data, or what exactly, how's the distribution of the data. Those kinds of things you get it. In case of recipe is the transformation part of it. Any transformation which you give in recipe that get executed in the recipe job, as the name suggests. Data lineage, visual workflow, and data profile, as we understood, more in and out analysis on different columns and different rows, how your data look like in terms of the quality, in terms of the missing values, and is it good, is it bad overall. So those are the different core concepts which we will be looking forward. I'll quickly jump towards demo so we can correlate what we have learned so far in terms of doing a quick hands-on. So in this hands-on, we will be doing 5 steps. Prerequisites, which is like, I don't want IAM roles and S3, we do it manually. So I've written a small cloud formation snippet, which will do the S3 bucket IAM role. So we can purely focus on the DataBrew. Then we'll play around with the DataBrew. Again, just want to call out all the presentation which I'm presenting today. The demo which I'll be demonstrating, including each scripts, I'll be uploading in the GitHub, and I'll share the link with the organizers. You can reach out to them and get it so you can try the same thing at your end. So moving towards the next slide. First, as I mentioned, I will be launching a cloud formation template. And this template, you don't have to worry about it. It will be there in the GitHub. So you will be launching a cloud formation template. That template will have 2 things. IAM role, and S3 bucket. In this S3 bucket, we will be also uploading a data set. This is a COVID data set from US for month of March 2020 about the different statistics and all. I'll be leveraging that data set to process via Brew and get some outcome around it. And that is the same bucket I will be using throughout my entire demo. So let me switch to my AWS console. So this is my AWS console, okay? Nothing different, the same what we always see. What I'm going to do is first I'm going to go to the CloudFormation template. Okay, you will click on create stack and new. I think most probably the guys who are already working in and out, for you, it will be pretty simple. But for the guys who are haven't used CloudFormation and this is your first session on, let's say, maybe CloudFormation. So CloudFormation is more like an infrastructure as a code, which helps you to automate the things which you can do it manually and in a faster space, right? So this CloudFormation template is what I'm uploading around it. I'll give a name around. Okay. You can give any name, but please ensure the name has to be very meaningful so you can trace it, what exactly it is. Okay, so you'll see this CloudFormation is getting spin up. It will take around a minute to get it done. In meantime, I'll take you towards template. So in case of template, what exactly DataBrew needs, right? It is very important since you're working around with the data. There are certain sensitive data also you can process. Recently,
just a heads up, we have 5 to 7 minutes on. So if you want to free some time for your questions as well.
Sure. Yeah, I'll do that quickly. So basically, CloudFormation only requires very minimal properties when it comes to the entire permission to S3. And you don't have to worry about that write or update kind of stuff. It just only need the read kind of stuff, right? And as given interest of time, what I will do is this CloudFormation event, once it is done, you will see it will done. And in meantime, I'll switch to the one which I've created for the dry run. Few hours back, I've created one example of dry run on the same data set. So this is how the console look like, right? So what you have to do is after the CloudFormation is done, you have to go towards to DataBrew. And again, the entire steps, how exactly you need to do is create the projects, create a data set around, like you have to provide the S3 where you're uploading the data set. And the second thing you will see that it start analyzing your data behind the scenes, start interpreting the data, working around it. So those things it will start doing at your behind the scene, and then you will see a kind of a window, which is here. Here you will see a different kinds of columns. The entire statistics column wise, you will see how it looks like, and you can do different operations here. You can also build a recipe kind of stuff, right? So if you go here, so this is how you can have the different recipe. You can import the recipe. You can play around with it, right? For example, like this is how you can, this is how the recipe is, right? You can select around the recipes from here. Since I have not defined it, you won't see, but you can build around the recipes and all from stuff, and you can get more details around how things work. Taking towards like what exactly the recipe look like. If I open this file, so as I mentioned initially, a recipe is just a pure instruction which you give. So you're just defining what kind of operation you need to perform on which column and what is the targeted stuff. The parameter set will vary based on the type of the operation, but this is a pure simple JSON file. You can also have it in YAML where you define this and you can reuse, you can collaborate, and you can do lots of stuff on this one. So it becomes more like how we talk about the CloudFormation infrastructure as a code. This is more like your transformation as a code, what you can just say, where you're defining all the instruction which you need to apply on this data set. And then you can do all of the stuff from here. This is a grid view. Let's say it is very also, when you're working on the data, you import entire data, but that doesn't mean you want to process or you want to analyze all the different columns what you have, right? So you don't have to worry about it. You can just disable the columns. That's also possible. As well as recently, 2 weeks back, Amazon also announced an interactive way. So you not only can just plug the data set, but you can also write the custom queries as a data source, and the outcome of that custom queries can also be one of the data source. That's one of the wonderful functionality, I would say. Also, you can also have more of data masking. So any sorts of sensitive data you have, PII like credit cards, email ID, phone number, those kinds of masking also you can do with help of DataBrew. So that's how AWS is very heavily focusing to make more and more improvements on the DataBrew over a period of time, with having more functionalities, more impactful, to ensure that you only focus on the business outcome and analyzing your data, rather than worrying about the scale part of the infrastructure, rather than worrying about the coding that is required to process around it. So that's more about DataBrew, why it is very important for us, and a quick demo around it. I'll share the entire presentation and the code, as I mentioned initially, so you can try around it. And if you face any issue, feel free to reach out to me over LinkedIn. I'll be happy to work around with you and resolve that issue. That's all from today's session from my side. Thank you.
That's great, Sanchit. Thank you so much. Let's take some question about Glue. You guys have any question related to that, you can ask Sanchit directly.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing on the DataBrew. Yeah, the nice interface is a very welcome features of when using Glue or its feature set. But one of the common asking about on data transformation, or especially on sensitive data, is about anonymizing data. Just wondering, is it possible to do in with use of the DataBrew, or any sort of plugin that you can use to enable these kind of features?
So if I hear your question correctly, you're looking around more how to normalize the data sort of a thing, right?
Yes.
So in case of the DataBrew itself, there out of 250 transformation, for sure you can look forward. Normalization is also one of the inbuilt customer that is provided, right? Connector. As of today, Brew doesn't provide the capability to build your own custom connector as such, right? They only supports the inbuilt connectors what they have given. But I mean, even I have heard this question many a times, that why you cannot write your own custom connector and share or play around with it, right? I think that might be in their product roadmap very soon. But you cannot define your own custom connectors, but for sure normalization is one of the existing custom connectors. And again, that is very subjective to given data set, right? How exactly your data is, and what kind of different complex way to normalize it, that is very subject to your data. But the current one, which is provided out of the box, works pretty well. We have seen at our end also on different data set, it is working fine. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the things which we are even looking forward, is the capability to define your own custom connectors.
Awesome. I hope that answered your question. Do we have any other question, guys? We can have one more question before we end it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Sanchit. It was like really nice. I really liked the demo as well, and it went well. Last time we went, sometimes technical difficulties only happening with the demos. So thank you so much, man. Hopefully we see you around as well soon. You guys, before we end it, please do scan this QR code. Give us a feedback to improve the community, and we give feedback as well to our speakers. So we'll leave it just for a few seconds. You can just spare like 2 minutes from your time to help us with this form. And lastly, guys, do follow us on all social media. We are very active on Facebook user group, and all our meetups happening on Meetup. We have a LinkedIn group. We are not that active yet, so maybe you want to help us to be active there. And we have a YouTube channel where you can find all our streams in that channel. So thank you all, guys. We will see you in December. Thanks to Salam, who's always helping us in the streaming, Koshik, and Jawhar, who's getting us these 2 amazing speakers for this month. So see you guys next month. Do reach out to us if you want to give any talk in the future as well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.